Hello, dear friends. So let's hop right into Simple Solutions 23. Hopefully, this lesson is a review to you because I know in third grade we start graphs. So hopefully, you've seen graphs like this before and you will be able to whiz on through today's lesson. Okay. So, a graph is a type of picture that displays information. This book uses three types of graphs: a bar, a line, and a circle graph. Study the bar graph. It compares the number of cats, dogs, birds, and fish that a pet store sells. It shows that the store sells hundreds of each animal and that it sells more fish than any other animal. Sidebar: a month ago, I just bought 4 betta fish from PetSmart, and only 2 of them are still living. So Miss Andrews is not very good at keeping pets. Anyway. All right, guys, so let's take a look at this bar graph. We're looking at cats, fish, birds, and dogs sold for the year at this particular pet store. Okay, we have our scale here, and it's increasing by 100ths. Okay, so it's showing us how many hundreds of each pet has been sold. All right. So it says, based on the bar graph, which of the following statements are true? So first, the pet store sold almost 200 dogs. So I'm going to go to the dog column, and I'm going to look, and I see that the dog column is almost to the 200 mark. So I know that that's true, so I'm going to put a check mark. Okay. Next, the pet store sold more than twice as many fish as birds. Okay. So I know that I have about maybe 375 fish sold. Okay. It's close to the 400 mark, but not quite there yet. And birds, I'm right here at about 130-ish. Okay. So if I take 130 and I multiply it by 2, I come up with 260. Okay. Is 260 less than 370? Yes, it is. So I know that this statement is true. The pet store sold way more than twice as many fish as birds. All right. Next statement, the pet store sold more dogs than cats. If you remember, we sold just about 200 dogs. Okay. Cats, looks like we sold about 250 cats. So I know that I actually sold more cats than dogs. So this one is false. I'm going to put an X. All right. Last one, the pet store sold more dogs than birds. The dog column is up higher than the bird, so I know this one is true. So we have 3 things that are true, 1 thing that is false based on the data in our bar graph. Okay. So now let's take a look at a line graph. So a line graph shows how things change over time. Look at the line graph. It represents voting patterns for a given state over the last 20 years. One line shows that the percentage of people in the whole state who vote is staying about the same. The second line shows that the percentage of city dwellers within the state who vote has increased. Okay. So again, we have a title here, percentage of people who vote. Down here on our x-axis, we have the years in which people have voted. So 1988 all the way up to 2008. And then on our y-axis, we have the percentage of people who voted each year. Okay. And then the bold dark line, that represents the state as a whole. And then the dotted line represents just the city. All right. So you may not have as much experience in line graphs. So this one might take a little bit of practice, but I know that we can do it. All right. So first statement, From 1988 to 1996, the state had a higher percentage of voters than in the city. So we're comparing the state to city from 1988 to 1996. Okay, so remember the state line is bold, the city line is dotted. So I can tell that already the state had a higher percentage of voters over those years because that line is way higher than the dotted line. Okay, so that one is true. Next, the city never had a higher percentage of voters than the state. I know that's false because look, my city line here is way higher than my state line, okay? So statement 2 is false. I'm gonna put an X. In election year 2000, so I'm gonna go to 2000 here, the city and the state had an equal percentage of voters. So I'm gonna draw my line out from the year 2000. Do you see how the city and state meet on the same point? That tells me that they did have an equal percentage of voters, so that statement is true. Okay. And last one, the city showed a steady increase in its percentage of voters. Looking at the city line, do you see how it's consistently going up or consistently increasing? Okay, so that's going to be true. All right, guys, last graph here. A circle graph or a pie chart is a way to show parts of a whole. Study the circle graph to the left. It shows the percentage of products that Brazil exported 1 January. Even if the percentages were not listed, the size of each slice of the pie chart gives a good idea of each share of the whole. Okay, so January exports from Brazil. So remember that word exports means to ship out. So product shipped out of Brazil in order to make money or profit. So it looks like coffee, sugar, tobacco, and oranges were the exports that we're going to be looking at here. So let's go to our statements. Brazil's largest export is coffee. If you look at your graph, coffee is almost half of the entire pie chart. So yes, that is true. We can tell just by looking. Okay. Next, the smallest percentage of product exported from Brazil was tobacco. If I look at my chart, nope. I know that the smallest percentage of product was oranges, not tobacco. Okay, so I know that this one is false. That January, Brazil exported more tobacco than sugar. 32% of the exports were tobacco, 19% sugar. So yes, more tobacco was exported than sugar. This is true. All right, and together is a clue word to me for addition. Sugar and tobacco make up more than 50% of Brazil's exports. So I'm going to go to my chart here, and I'm going to add together my 32% for tobacco plus my 19% for sugar. Okay, I know that 2 plus 9 is 11. I have to regroup. 1 plus 3 plus 1 is 5. So 51% is more than 50%. So I know this is true. Okay. And last one, cross out the item that does not belong in this list. Be able to explain why the one you crossed out does not belong. So we have tires, gold, trees, soil, water, coal, and sunshine. All of these things have something in common except for one of them. Okay, so take a second to think about it. And the one that you should have selected would be tires. All right. And in the question, it says to explain why the one you crossed out does not belong. So we need to write an explanation using the complete sentence. So we could say something like, tires, because everything else is a natural resource. A tire would be a capital resource. Okay. All right, guys. Last lesson for the week is coming up shortly.